Welcome to the Enterprise Architecture Radio. Today we are going to start something new. We're going to start a series of episodes in which we will take a look at the pharmaceutical industry, specifically focusing on organizations that do drug development. But before I get into the nitty-gritty of the pharmaceutical life cycle, starting from drug development all the way to supply chain and various other things, I want to tell you a story. You see, pharmaceutical industry has a bad rep. It could be because of the pop culture, TV shows, cinema, etc. But there is an image that pharma companies do profiteering on the sickness and illness of people. So I want to tell you a story because I want you to have an open mind when we look at the pharmaceutical industry. Long time ago, in a village far, far away, there was a doctor. Now, this doctor was no ordinary doctor. He was a researcher and a scientist. And for many years, he'd been doing research on creating a medicine for cancer. And I'm going to oversimplify all of this. It's not technically possible to create a medicine for cancer by a doctor in a village far, far away. But, bear with me. So he'd been doing research all his life, trying to create a cure for cancer. And he'd been using radium and various other radioactive material to do this research. Now, after a lot of work, a lot of hard work, tremendous research, a lot of experimentation, a lot of investment and everything, he's eventually able to create a medicine. And the medicine is so good that one pill could cure cancer for any patient in the world. Now, this is a revolutionary medicine, so he decides that he's going to charge a fee or sell this medicine for, let's say, 1 lakh rupees. Now, in the same village, there's a simple man. He's a farmer or a shepherd or what have you, and he loves his wife a lot. And his wife, and they discover that his wife has late-stage cancer. Now, considering he knows that in his own village there is a doctor who has created a medicine for cancer, he goes to the doctor. And he says that my wife has cancer. I would like to take the medicine for her. And the doctor says, I would like 1 lakh rupees and I will definitely give you the medicine. And it will cure her cancer. But he doesn't have 1 lakh rupees because he's a simple farmer. So what's he going to do? He goes to the village folk and he requests them, says that my wife has cancer and that, that the medicine costs 1 lakh rupees and he doesn't have the money. And the village folk are nice. So, a few people give him a donation and then he takes a loan from other people. And eventually he's able to arrange for 50,000 rupees, which is half the amount of what the doctor expects. Now, he takes this 50,000 rupees and he goes to the doctor. And he says, I have half the money. I don't have the full money, but I'll give you the rest of the money over a period of time. So the doctor asks him, what do you do? And he says, I'm a simple farmer. And then he says, where did you get this money? So he says that some of it is a donation, most of it is a loan. So the doctor says that, no, I will not give you the medicine. You will have to go get me the full amount of money and then I'll give you the medicine. So the farmer pleads and begs and says, my wife doesn't have a lot of time and I can't see her pain and suffering. So please give me the medicine. I will give you the rest of the money over a period of time. But the doctor wouldn't have it. So he goes back home disappointed and depressed and he takes care of his wife. And at night, he's no longer able to see the suffering that his wife has and decides to take things into his hands. He goes to the doctor's house, beats him up, takes the medicine, comes back home, gives it to his wife. The end. I know it's a little bit of a dramatic ending on the story, but that's not the end of the exercise. What I want you all to do is take sides. Either you are on the farmer's side or you are on the doctor's side. You can't take both sides. You have to pick one. And talk to me. Talk to me about why you are on the farmer's side or why you are on the doctor's side. Mind you, this is a thought experiment or an exercise for you to open up your mind. So I would encourage you to think about this from all directions. If necessary, you can go back to the point where the story starts and listen to the story again. I have put in some important key points in the story which are useful and which are key to this story. And then talk to me about it. Tell me what you think about the farmer, and or if you're taking the farmer side, or if you're taking the doctor side, why do you think the doctor was right? And then let's talk. Pro tip, both of them are equally right. So while you might sympathize with the farmer a little bit, think about it from all angles. All right, we'll talk about this in one of the future episodes perhaps. I don't want to reveal what I think about the whole story. I want to hear from you what you have to say. So talk to me. You can leave comments on the YouTube video, or there is a Telegram group called Enterprise Architecture Radio. You can join that and start talking about it there. Or we are now starting with a Discord server. Discord is a collaboration tool of the next generation. I haven't really used Discord before. I've just created a server for Enterprise Architecture Radio. You can go there and you can talk to me. There's nobody on the server right now. Get on it and let's see where it goes. Or there is a LinkedIn group. There are so many ways that you can talk to me. But do talk to me, all right? And at this point, I would like to remind you to like, share, and subscribe the video if you do enjoy it, though. If you don't enjoy it, let me know. Tell me how I can improve this video, how I can improve this podcast, and I'll work on it. It's good feedback from me. But otherwise, let YouTube know that you are enjoying this video and post some comments, and let's collaborate. So let's start with the various business functions. So what I'm going to do today is give you an overview of the pharmaceutical industry, specifically focusing on the drug development companies. Now I keep talking about drug development companies, so quick overview. There are two types of companies in the pharmaceutical industry. At least two come to mind at this point in time. One is the drug development companies. These are companies that actually research new medicine for different ailments, or new medicines for new ailments, or what have you. All the innovation and all the research happens in these companies. Now what happens is, when they see a potential candidate that can turn into a drug, they file a patent. And then that patent is usually given to them by the regulatory bodies for a period of about 10 to 15 years, depending upon what kind of medicine it is or what kind of ailment it is and so on and so forth. And then, so what that means is that this company would be able to research, manufacture, and sell that particular drug as a monopoly for the period of 15 years. As a monopoly meaning they'll get an opportunity to earn money or return of investment, the investment that they are doing on the research. So for 15 years, no other company can research, manufacture, or sell that particular formula. But after 15 years, what happens is the patent expires, and then the formula is available for all other organizations. So they can now start manufacturing and selling that particular drug for much cheaper. They've not done the investment on the research, so they can straight away start manufacturing and selling. And that's why generics drugs are a lot cheaper than, and these companies are called generics. So once the patent expires, the medicine becomes a generics, and then other companies that manufacture this particular medicine is called a generics company. So the two types of companies that are there in the pharma industry that I'm talking about is drug development companies that do research and innovate and create new drugs, and generics companies that do not do the research but do everything else. Everything else that this company does. So they will manufacture, they will do quality control, they will sell the drugs and so supply chain and what have you. Now in this series, we are going to talk about the research companies, specifically because they are complex and they are interesting and they're fun. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Now, the life cycle of a drug development company starts from discovery, right? I'm talking about drug development specifically. So they will identify candidates that can cure an ailment. It could be something as complex as curing cancer, or it could be something as simple as a painkiller. There's a lot of shortlisting. So, a large number of candidates are identified, and then basically they are tested for efficacy and side effects. So there is a lot of shortlisting. So this is all called discovery. You discover a number of candidates and then see how many of them can actually be converted into drugs. Once this happens, after that, there are preclinical studies which are done. So preclinical studies involve various kinds of things like toxicology. Is this particular drug poisonous for human beings? Very interesting thought. Everything is toxic. The question is how strong it is. So, even water is toxic, but I'll not get into the detail of that. Toxicology is, how poisonous it is. Pharmacokinetics, which essentially means how does the drug go into our body? How does it dissolve into our body? How does it get out of our body? So the movement of the drug into our body and out of our body is called pharmacokinetics. And then we have various phases in clinical development. So, we've got clinical testing, and animal testing, human testing, and so on and so forth. After this, we get into regulatory submissions and approval. So every stage within the drug development process, whether it is preclinical, clinical, post-clinical, what have you, we are involved with the regulatory bodies. So filing a patent, then, initial research. Whatever research we do, at the completion of that research, we have to submit the documents that basically show what research we have done, how we've done the research, what was the outcome of the research, animal trial, human trials, how was the efficacy of the drug, and whether there were any side effects or not. All of this is shown to the regulatory bodies. This is called regulatory submissions or approval. Primarily what we are trying to do here is look at the safety, patient safety. So patients are going to consume these drugs, whether the patients are safe or not. At least in the initial parts of the tests, we look at safety, and then over a period of time, efficacy is also given importance. And there are various other factors that are given importance, like how many times the drug has to be taken in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, what have you. How safe it is, obviously, and how effective it is, and what is the, again, movement of the drug into the body, how is it consumed by the body, how is it excreted by the body, and all of this research. And all of these research is shown to the regulatory bodies, and they give us a go ahead into the next phase of the clinical development, or they ask us to stop. If the drug is not good, if the efficacy is not good, or if it is not safe enough, if it doesn't meet the safety parameters, then the regulatory bodies will stop you, and then that particular candidate that we had discovered in the earlier phases is a failure. Regulatory submissions and approval also includes how we are going to label the drug, how we are going to give safety instructions to the patient during consumption of the drug, and so on and so forth. Once all the phases of clinical development are over and the regulatory bodies give us an approval to go ahead for a go live. Go live means we are now manufacturing the drug for mass consumption or individual consumption, depending upon what kind of a drug it is. These days we have something called personalized medicine, which is a very interesting subject. Won't go too deep into it. We will go deep into it in one of the future episodes. So once we go live, we go into mass production, which basically means we look at the API synthesis. API is active pharmaceutical ingredient. So what is the building block of that medicine? Is it a synthetic API, or is it a natural API, or as you call it, biologics API? All of that. And then we get into manufacturing. We produce the drug at scale, and then we also look at quality control. Obviously, we have to make sure that the formula is intact. During manufacturing, there are various various parameters that need to be taken into account during manufacturing. Some drugs have specific requirements around temperature control, climate control, weather control, and those particular parameters need to be maintained throughout the manufacturing and even during distribution processes. So all these things need to be taken care of for quality control to make sure that the patients get exactly what was tested in the labs. And then we come into other processes such as supply chain and distribution. Now, supply chain and distribution have a direct, and this is not very different in the pharmaceutical industry than any other industry, so to speak, because supply chain lets the manufacturing unit know the demand forecast, how much needs to be manufactured, how much raw material needs to be procured, etc., etc. There is also production planning involved in supply chain, but because depending upon what the demand is going to be, we plan the production quantities. And obviously supply chain has some other specifics such as temperature control, climate control. Some medicines need to be delivered frozen. A certain temperature needs to be maintained for them to be effective and not have any side effects, etc. And then, of course, supply chain also needs to take care of counterfeiting. These days, that's happening a lot. In fact, our organization has come up with a very interesting and innovative device. You just put the tablet on the device and it'll tell you whether it's a counterfeit or it's a real tablet and so on. So all of that is a part of supply chain. Inventory management, traceability of the drug. When the drug is moving from one location to the other location, there is constant traceability as to how it's doing, and so on and so forth. So all of this falls within supply chain. And then we come to other functions such as corporate functions like marketing and finance and branding and market access and so on. These are not very different from other organizations, but they are also a very important part of pharmaceutical industry. And we'll specifically talk about this in detail when we get into the nitty-gritty of it. And then we come to commercial and medical strategy, where we look at marketing and branding and messaging, right? What kind of message do we want to send, and how is the organization perceived as a medicine company, and so on and so forth. Not very different from marketing and branding for other organizations, nothing specific to pharmaceutical industry. And then we have corporate functions such as finance and accounting and legal and compliance and so on, which are also similar to other industries. And then we have corporate development strategy, in which we have mergers and acquisitions. Now, we are seeing, and I've talked about this in my previous episodes also, that mergers and acquisitions play a very important role these days. The amount of money that is being invested into mergers and acquisitions is slowly increasing. But in the pharmaceutical industry, mergers and acquisitions mean a very important thing, because acquisition in a pharma industry may not be an acquisition of an entire organization. It is also that, but they may also acquire a patent. So there could be a smaller organization that has already worked on a patent, and they could be at any stage of clinical development. They could be in early stages of clinical development, or they could have completed animal trials or human trials, or it might have crossed go live. At any point in time, an organization can acquire their patent, and then once they've acquired the patent, they can start manufacturing the drug, or they can continue to develop the drug into a full-fledged product. So mergers and acquisitions play a very important role in a pharmaceutical company. And then we have portfolio strategy and investment and venture management and so on and so forth, which are not very different from other organizations. Now, why am I talking about all of this? I'm talking about all of this because one is, if you're interested in enterprise architecture, there's a good chance you are interested in understanding business. So while I am starting with the pharmaceutical business, I will get into other industries also. Understanding the business helps us understand how to develop a technology strategy that will enable the business. And when I get into the detail of each and every business function that I talked about today, I am going to talk about how technology is impacting that particular business function within the larger pharmaceutical industry. I'll also talk about how artificial intelligence specifically can impact, and trust me, if you've started using artificial intelligence as a co-pilot, like for writing or for content generation or for, for various other things that you do on a daily basis, you've not even scratched the surface yet. The amount of potential that artificial intelligence has today to change the way we do business is tremendous. And that's what we are going to talk about in the next couple of episodes of this. I talked to you about this in my previous episode, that we are doing a pivot, right? Enterprise Architecture Radio is slowly changing. We are going to talk about enterprise architecture a little bit less and talk about business and technology and strategy and leadership a little bit more. And I told you that I'm going to call guests to the podcast as well. I have lined up a couple of guests. Some of them are startup owners. Some of them are leaders in the pharmaceutical industry. Some of them are leaders in the technology industry that support various businesses such as pharma, such as fintech and what have you. I'm doing this because it gives us a unique perspective about all of this, really, right? About the business, about technology, about strategy, about IT, about leadership, about people, about various things that are happening in the industry and so on and so forth. So I'm rebranding Enterprise Architecture Radio. Now, Enterprise Architecture Radio is a fantastic name, all right? It tells you very clearly what's going to be there in the podcast. And it's short and it's easy to understand, easy to remember. It's a beautiful name, and trust me, I love it. But I'm thinking about rebranding it simply because enterprise architecture has a bad rep now, right? People don't take enterprise architecture very seriously. It's become a buzzword. And with the advent of artificial intelligence, the way enterprise architecture is perceived in the industry today is dying, right? Enterprise architecture, in a sense, is not dying. I believe that enterprise architecture is the combination of leadership, strategy, and technology. But the way it's perceived is command and control and, governance and bureaucracy and all of that. And artificial intelligence is going to get rid of all of that. But the core essence of enterprise architecture will remain. So I don't want enterprise architecture radio in the name. So, I want to pivot a little bit and change the brand and change the name of this podcast. And so I'm looking for suggestions and ideas from you. Okay. I'll give you a brief requirement. The name of the podcast should be such that the name itself represents strategy, leadership, and technology. The name should be short. The name should not be too generic. The name should not be too quirky. I know I have too many requirements, but I'm looking for suggestions from you because I truly and genuinely believe that this podcast belongs to all of us. I don't want to be the only person talking in this podcast. Although I've been saying this, I've not been able to do anything about it for a long time. I genuinely believe that I'm not the best person to talk about all of this, right? The idea was to create a collaboration platform so all of us can talk together. Or, like they say, none of us is as smart as all of us. So I want all of us to work together. And that's why I created the Telegram group. And I do see some chatter and I'm very proud about it. There's I actually took a break from Enterprise Architecture Radio for a while. And even when I was not speaking or not publishing episodes, I could see that there is communication and chatting and questioning and answering and challenging, all of that happening. But I want to increase that. I want more chatter. I want more collaboration. I want more, things happening in this podcast. So I am opening this up to all of you. If you're listening to this, tell me what do you think? What do you think should be the new name of Enterprise Architecture Radio? It continues to be exactly what it was before. We'll talk less about enterprise architecture frameworks and tools and more about business strategy and technology. Tell me what do you think? So the book that we are going to cover today is The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil. Now, interestingly, this book was recommended to me by one of the listeners of Enterprise Architecture Radio, and I picked it up last week or so. Very interesting. What Ray is trying to say is that by 2045, we would have achieved a technological singularity or a technological tipping point where artificial intelligence and other technologies will essentially take over. Now, a couple of things that Ray predicted have not come true. Like, for example, in the book, he had predicted that by now, and we are talking about 2025, in fact, by 2020 or so, we would not require laptops and mobile phones anymore. All the products that we interact with would have their own interesting user interfaces. And the user interfaces would also be unique. We would not require screens and touch screens and all of that anymore. That hasn't happened. But having said that, there are a couple of things that he had said that I feel are very, very interesting. And one of them is the merging of human and technology, right? In fact, in the book, Ray Kurzweil says that human beings, he does not see human beings as biological entities, but rather sets of patterns of information, which essentially leads to immortality by storing our consciousness into systems and so on and so forth. Very, very interesting. I find it interesting because it gives you a view about the future and about how technology is going to impact us. Because when we start looking at things differently, we start designing our systems with that future in mind. So it's not about prediction really, right? It's about the possibilities. I had read a book by Alvin Toffler called Future Shock. And in Future Shock also, there were quite a few predictions. And most of the predictions have not come true yet. And there are some predictions or there are other things that have already happened which were not a part of the Future Shock book. There also he talked about technology and humans, merging together. So not only human beings enhanced with technology like bionic eyes and robotic arms and whatnot, but in the book, Alvin Toffler also talks about robots with biological parts and cybernetic organisms and whatnot. But very, very interesting, this one also, technological singularity. In fact, there is a newer version of the book I hear, which is called The Singularity is Nearer, right? I'm going to read that one if I find this one interesting towards the end. So good book, recommend it if you are interested in that kind of a thing. Once again, I would like to remind you that if you are enjoying this video, then like, subscribe, share and comment. It will tell YouTube that you enjoy the videos. It'll help the channel and it'll tell me that you're enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, then please talk to me. I love that feedback. If you think that I should improve something in this podcast, please let me know. Once again, go back to the story and let's talk about the story as well. Are you on the doctor's side or are you on the farmer's side, and why? Let's get some conversations going. This is a collaboration platform. This is where people come. That's what I would like to have. I would like to have people come and help each other and learn from each other and guide each other. But most importantly, have a ton of fun.